Interestingly enough, they didn't ask me to comment on this. This is again where I'm just like flabbergasted.
They put you in a bad light.
Hi and welcome to Pleasant Talk. I'm Kjersti Flaa, and here on my channel I talk about my good and bad experiences in Hollywood and working as an entertainment reporter. And Magnus is back. He is also going to share some of his inside info. He's been working in Hollywood for many hundreds of years.
Please don't tell them.
For Sweden. Anyways, here we are today, and of course we have to discuss the news about how Blake Lively has hired a CIA alum for her as our new crisis expert, who's going to save her. Yeah.
What's next? The American Army?
Yeah, maybe. It says here they gave this story to Variety, not the Hollywood Reporter. Mark my words.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Exclusively in Variety, it says that she has hired Nick Shapiro, who is a CIA former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to former director John Brennan. What do you think she's going to use the CIA?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. Connect some dots, but what dots? I'm not.
I feel like either A, it's to scare people, like to scare Baldoni and his team, like we have CIA, or it is because he's really good at digging up stuff that they think exists.
Yeah, they must. Yeah, but that's the problem, though. It has to exist.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, it is a lie if it doesn't exist. I think we've seen some example of things that she presented as the truth, and then when Baldoni came out with his evidence, it turned out to be a different truth. That's anyways.
Competing truths.
So Variety said this about the CIA guy. So according to his bio, Shapiro helped lead the Obama administration's response to the H1N1 pandemic, the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, the Gulf oil spill, the Boston Marathon bombing, the Japan earthquake, tsunami, and Fukushima nuclear disaster, as well as numerous cyber attacks, data breaches, wildfires, floods, and hurricanes.
And now he's focusing on
Blake Lively.
I mean,
SH.
Come on, what is this? This is basically a business dispute, isn't it? I mean, the SH accusations didn't go to the, she didn't go to the cops.
No.
She didn't go to the union.
No.
She didn't go to, not even to Sony apparently, or maybe she did, but we don't know that.
No, because there's no paper, there's no evidence for any of these things.
So this is a business dispute, basically.
Yeah.
And she's hiring ex-CIA people? I mean, okay.
I know.
Overkill, if you ask me.
But I feel like this is like such a desperate new move from her team to actually think that, if we hire this guy, people are gonna, I don't know.
You think it's a scare tactics?
I think so. And the thing is, what I have suspicion of here is that I think maybe Blake Lively still believes that it's not her, it's everyone else, and she believes that there are bots out there that's still like running this smear campaign against her. It's not real people. She believes that this CIA guy can get to the bottom of why the whole of the internet turned against her, because she believes that it didn't actually happen. It's just bots.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what Shapiro can come up with.
He's got some work to do, though.
Could be interesting. And yesterday, it was also a news story that the New York Times had filed a motion to dismiss. Justin Baldoni sued them for $250 million after they published the story about Blake Lively that we've all read and thought that, okay, wow, she was SH'd on the set of It Ends With Us and things were so horrible.
And the so-called smear campaign.
Yes, and the alleged smear campaign.
It was riveting. I mean, this was almost better than the actual story, because now we got to see how they work. And for us who have been in the business, it's quite interesting, I have to say. And also a bit surprising, right?
Yeah, so they sent out an email, or Megan Thu, he was the journalist for this one of
their star reporter, basically.
Yeah, who won a Pulitzer Prize for reporting on Harvey Weinstein, by the way. She sent an email to 12 people at 9:40 on a Friday night, and she didn't even ask them questions. She just listed a lot of statements that Blake Lively's team had given her.
And that were going to be in the story, apparently.
Yeah. And said, do you have any comments? I think it was like 40 statements. So what does that tell you? How is she going to report on that if they actually answered?
And also, don't forget, this was what you said, 9:40 at night, right? Yeah. And she gave them a deadline to respond.
Till noon.
Till noon the day after. No, they said they wouldn't publish at noon the day after. So that would mean even less time, right?
Yeah.
So 40 statements that were pretty bad for the Baldoni team.
And 12 people were going to answer or comment on these 40 statements. How on earth would she have the time to actually write the article if they got back to her? That's what I think is so obvious now, that she planned, or they planned all along, not to, actually listen to his story at all.
But the story must have been written, of course. It was written.
It was
and
already
then
done.
then they say they're saying this about you.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
Yeah.
And then they know that they're not going to get an answer because it's too late, and
They knew that they weren't going to get an answer. And they did get a statement from Baldoni's lawyer, that's all. But of course, if all these people would have replied to her, how on earth would she have been able to add that to the story in such a short amount of time? It was noon New York time. So if you're in LA, that's 9 a.m. Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And they did publish 2 hours earlier, meaning that was 7 a.m. in LA.
They didn't even keep the noon.
No.
But the interesting thing in this dismissal is that it doesn't give us the answer that we all are waiting for. And that's, did they have all the receipts? Did they have all the texts or not? Because they excluded some of the texts in the story, in the original story. And that would have changed the tone of the whole story, right?
Yeah, they cherry picked.
Yeah. Or not. I mean, we don't know if they got, if Blake Lively's team cherry picked it.
No, that's what we still don't know that.
Yeah.
Because they're not saying here if they had access to everything or if they just had access to the cherry picked text that her team chose to show them. And if they're the ones who removed emojis that made, a text message mean something completely different because they removed the emoji, if the New York Times removed it or if it was already removed when they received it. Yeah, so we don't know if they've seen all the texts or if they did and ignored them or if they just picked the ones that Blake Lively's team picked for them.
And if this case is dismissed, we'll never find out.
No. No.
Let's hope it's not.
Yeah, I really hope it's not. So I am mentioned again here. This is also very interesting to me. I am mentioned here. It says in the email sent to Melissa Nathan, it says that in August, Kjersti, Flaa, a Norwegian entertainment reporter, uploaded to YouTube a 2016 interview she had done with Miss Lively, in which the actress snapped back when Miss Flaa made a comment about her baby bump, titling it "The Blake Lively interview that made me quit my job." In 2022, in the midst of Mr. Depp's legal battle with Miss Flaa posted clips of her interviews with the actor tagged Justice for Johnny Depp.
Those are two statements, basically.
Yes, that they asked Melissa Nathan to comment on. Interestingly enough, they didn't ask me to comment on this. This is again where I'm just like flabbergasted.
They put you in a bad light, and they don't let you respond.
They're asking Melissa to comment on these things, but they're not asking me to comment on
Yeah,
them.
and they have nothing that connects the two of you.
No.
But they're still asking her.
Maybe that's why they hired the CIA agent.
Uh-oh.
But you know what? I think that maybe that's one of the reasons, because if they can connect me to them, that's their dream, to be able to find something that connects me with them. But I'm sorry.
To prove the smear campaign.
Yeah. I think that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Because
they're going to need more than a CIA guy for that.
Yeah, because I came in from kind of the left here and just surprised them with this interview, and they were like, okay, all the other stuff we can connect to Baldoni, saying that, it was his smear campaign that's made Blake Lively be rude to reporters during the PR campaign. But my interview is like, how can they explain that? And that's what they're having issues with, and that's what they're hoping, that they will find a connection. So Mr. Shapiro Go ahead.
Better watch out.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of you guys have been sending me a clip of Rebecca Fergusson talking about a co-star she had in the past when he was being, or she, we don't know, she calls it the person, was being disrespectful towards her, and she actually told the person off.
I was so vulnerable and comfortable that I got screamed at. But because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. No one had my back. And I would cry walking off set. This person would literally look at me in front of the whole crew and say, you call yourself an actor, this is what I have to work with. I remember the next day I walked on and I said, you get off my set.
So there's been so many speculations about who this person is. And
Apparently everybody thinks it's
Ryan Reynolds. She was acting with Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal in the movie Life.
from 2017.
Yeah, and people think that it's Ryan Reynolds. We don't think so.
We don't agree because first of all, she says in this viral video that it was an actor that was number one on the call sheet. And number one on the call sheet in Life was Jake Gyllenhaal. Well, bad for him if you know.
If it's him.
She has also said it's not Tom Cruise. She has worked with him. It's not
Hugh
Jackman. She has worked with him twice, I think.
Yeah.
And The Rock has come out and said
it's not him.
Because he was a little afraid that he was going to get
Yeah.
hate.
And then Emily Blunt, she was also in a movie with her, and Emily Blunt and her, they're just like super good friends, and there's all these photos of them together.
And there was one movie she did with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
He was number one on that, but you know, he's the nicest guy, isn't he?
Yeah. I think with Jake Gyllenhaal though, like we were talking about today, like discussing this, and Jake Gyllenhaal, he's kind of a serious actor, and he takes his craft very seriously. So for me, it's really hard to believe that he would act like that on a movie set. Don't you think? Have you had the experiences with him?
No, he's been super cool, I gotta say. You know, and yeah, he might be pretentious. What do I know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think he's an asshole.
And then she did a movie. She did Men in Black International, right? And that was number one on the call sheet. There was what's his name, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
And I think she's worked with him since. So
Chris Hemsworth is just a nice guy. I mean, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. All my experiences with Chris Hemsworth, he's just a lovely, really easygoing guy. Not him.
So then we have to go down the list a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there is a movie that was shot in your home country.
In Norway.
Mm-hmm. A terrible movie based on a good book.
Yeah, by Jon Espe, which is an amazing crime writer.
Nordic noir, basically.
Yeah.
Number one on the call sheet there was...
Michael Fassbender. Yeah.
We don't know.
No,
we were speculating now.
Don't know. But if I am going to guess who she's talking about, he was the first person to like pop in my head. And you know why, Magnus?
Because of his past, you mean?
No, because my experiences with him has been like, this guy is just, I don't know, first time I met him for 12 Years a Slave, he was the most charming actor I've almost ever interviewed. He was so lovely and charming and funny and bubbly throughout the entire interview. I was like, oh my God, this guy is amazing. It's great. Then a few years later, I met him again, and I was like, oh, Michael Fassbender. And he was so mean.
Yeah, he is the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, isn't he?
Yes. I was like, I cried when I got
Really?
Yeah. It was so bad. It was terrible.
No, he made you cry for real?
Not in the interview, but when I got home, I cried.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
It was
didn't
so
tell me
bad.
this.
Yeah. And the studio called me and said, don't ever show that interview. And I haven't.
So he was mean to you, and they say don't show it?
Yeah, of course. That's how it works. You know, it's never like, oh, well, I'm sorry that he was mean to you. It was like, don't you ever show that
In what
interview.
way was he mean, though?
He was just like being rude and dismissive and very short answers. And no, it was just like the most uncomfortable. I entered the room. He was
Worse
just...
than Blake Lively?
Yeah. He was just on his phone, like looking at his phone, like paying no attention to me entering the room. He was just looking at me like, yeah, whatever. What do you have to say to me? He was like, it was so unpleasant. I was sitting there. I think the interview was 3 minutes because I just left. And anyways, that's why I think it's him. Because
he has certainly showed some of those sides with me as well. Not as extreme. I didn't cry, but it got weird. And you know, the guy has a you know, troubled past, we can call it, right? You know, he's one of his ex-girlfriends was beaten up and allegedly beaten up and dragged by the car.
Dragged by the car?
Yeah, she was sort of dragged by the car. That's what it said in the reporting. And, you know, it was a jealous rage and he had been drinking, and it was 2 different times actually. And apparently it was so bad that her nose was broken.
Wow.
But in the end, she was never charged. She never filed a police complaint, I think, because he was on the verge of stardom and she didn't want to ruin his career, she has said.
Wow.
So
that's serious.
It's a long time ago. It was 2009.
Yeah.
So
now he's with Alicia Vikander, another Swedish actress. I adore her. She's so sweet.
And they have 2 children together.
Yeah, I hope he's in a better place in his life now with her. But
I'm sure
yeah, but I think it's always a little scary with people where you see that they're behaving a certain way. They're extremely charming in 1 second, and then you see the other side, that's really scary to me.
And we brought this up because there were all these speculations online that it's Ryan Reynolds, and as we said, we don't think it is because you know, he wasn't number 1 on her call sheet. So.
No. So Rebecca Fergusson did a follow-up interview with Sirius XM.
Oh yeah, kind of explain why she brought it up in the first place without naming anyone.
Yeah, and I love that. First of all, I love Rebecca Fergusson. She is the sweetest person. I met her on the red carpet once, and she was just so sweet, and she's such a hugger, and she's so cute. And I remember she was really nice to you too, Magnus. She's really nice, and I love her honesty. Maybe it's just Scandinavian genes that made her too honest like we are, but she was interviewed again about this interview on Sirius XM, and
it was brought up because it had gone viral. She was asked about it, right?
Yeah, so they asked her about it again.
I've got phone calls from amazing co-stars who I've worked with going, "You understand what you've done, right?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no, I didn't think." I mean, it's not my responsibility, to be honest. I don't really care. You know, you're great. But my story's my story. And if you're a good person, then don't worry about it.
No, but what it is, you teach people how to treat you, which is one of the most amazing things that anyone ever taught me.
I love that the host of this show is saying, you know, you teach people how to treat you, which I think is so amazing. Like he said as well, it's a really amazing thing to do. And
you did the same thing when you know, showed the Blake Lively video, basically, right?
Yeah. I showed the person though, which is kind of a step further.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I do, of course, understand why she couldn't mention the name of this person because that's too risky for her. But I love that she actually did, you know, actually talk about this. And of course, everyone was like, who is the asshole here? Which she said, that's not the point. But the point is, it was a good question. You know, was there one time that you kind of stood up for yourself when people didn't treat you well? And I think it's great that she did. And and now I think after this, people are definitely going to treat her better or good if anything like that ever comes
or
up
treat her
again.
the way she should be treated, and everybody else should be treated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was horrible, the things that this person had said to her. You know, you call yourself an actress. And you're like this.
This is what you make me work with.
Yeah. No, horrible. So we don't say that we know who it is, but that would be our guess. If you have any other guesses, let us know. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And thanks for sending all the tips. Keep them coming. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode of Flaa Talk. And I'll see you in my next episode. Bye.
Bye.